Beautiful New York. Did you know that it's the third largest wine producer in the United States? 59 of its 62 counties have at least one winery, over 400 in all. As a meteorologist in New York who happens to love wine, I'll give you insight as to how weather affects each vintage and what tastes emerge from each growing season. With a variety of weather patterns, New York grows grapes that evoke flavors found nowhere else in the world. I'm Jason Goff, and this is Wine About the Weather. Welcome to Wine About the Weather. So glad you're hanging out with us this week. We've made our way out to the beautiful Finger Lakes here in early spring. We're going to share with you an award-winning Riesling, some sustainable winery farming practices, and even a couple of wine slushies too. But I'll tell you what, it could not happen without this beautiful lake here behind me, Seneca Lake. The thing that stands out the most to me about Seneca Lake is just the sheer size of it and the fact that without it, these vineyards and wineries just wouldn't be here. It's the deepest of the Finger Lakes at 640 feet. And not only that, I think even more important, 328,000 gallons of water per minute flow into the lake from springs. That's important because it keeps the lake waters mixed up and it makes it very difficult for the lake to freeze. In fact, the lake is not completely frozen over since 1912. You also get these northwest breezes across the lake. That means that it extends the growing season in the fall with the warmer breezes off the lake, but it also suppresses the bud break in the spring. That keeps the buds in the vines just a little bit longer. That's very important to folks like John Wagner, who's co-owner of Wagner Vineyards. I'm going to head over there right now. Wait till you see the Riesling he has for us. We made our way up to Wagner Vineyards here up on the east side of Seneca Lake. I'm here with John Wagner, he and his sister Laura, fourth generation Wagners here that own this land and these old vines that are here that we're going to take a walk through here in a little while. John, the history of this is fascinating. Tell me a little bit about how all of this came to pass.
Well, the Wagner family's been growing grapes on the east side of Seneca Lake for 4 generations. I'm 4th generation, my son's 5th generation, so that spans over 100 years. Since that point, we were making grapes, like I said, 100% estate bottled, so they're all from our own grapes, all the wines are.
That's what estate means in terms of that.
Yeah, so estate bottled means we plant the grapes, we grow the grapes, and those grapes go into the wine.
So your family, though, has been growing grapes a heck of a lot longer than since '76.
Yep, back in the late 1800s here on the east side of Seneca Lake.
And it's been a long time, and this vineyard itself has a lot of special characteristics to it as well.
It sure does, yep. My grandfather farmed this exact site right here with horses. So, I mean, he would come through here in the spring and hand pound posts. So this site right here he derived his living from this soil, and we still do today. So.
Well, let's take a little bit of a closer look. I want to ask you a couple of questions, and I also understand that some pretty special wine has come out of these too.
Sure, yeah. So these are Riesling vines. The soils are uniquely suited for growing grapes. They're very well-drained soil. So vines don't like wet feet. They like to have their roots to go down into soil that has enough soil moisture to it, but not standing water. So well-drained soils are extremely important. You can see this has got a lot of gravel content to the soil. This mound of dirt that you can see here, this is called hilling up. So every fall after harvest, we go through and we take the dirt on either side of the row and we hill it up around the base of the vine, and that's to protect these grafted vines from cold winter temperatures. These are the fruiting canes. These grew last year's season. We use movable catch wires to create a vertical plane. This is real nice for exposing the fruit to sun, and it's real excellent as far as flavor development. So we do a lot of things to really manipulate the canopy and grow very good Riesling here.
And so the slope on here will also help to have the sort of the colder air rolling downhill so you don't get any pockets of frost and things, but also for your drainage.
Absolutely. Most of the best fruit grown in the Finger Lakes is on steeply sloping sites. The importance of this steep slope and the proximity to Seneca Lake can't be overstated. That cold, dense air comes down on those cold nights. It can't sit here because of the slope site. It rushes down the hill, goes out over Seneca Lake, which is the deepest of the Finger Lakes, and gets warmed by the water temperature there. And that constant mixing of temperatures prevents a temperature inversion layer. So we usually have very good air drainage and usually have more mild temperatures than some of the other sites around the lake.
Now, it's great that we know all about these vines, but they've also created something very special. You guys won an award this year.
We did. We entered, we make a single vineyard designation Riesling from this block. It's our Kaywood East Dry Riesling. We entered it in the largest tasting in America for American wines, the San Francisco Chronicle competition in California, and we won Best Dry Riesling in the country for that.
In the entire United States?
We did.
You wouldn't happen to have any of that laying around, would you?
I think we might have a bottle here. Would you like to try some?
Yes, we do. And it just so happens that we have Katie, the awesome Riesling deliverer here. So we're tasting this wine that won this award that came from these vines. I am honored, sir, to be on your family's land to try some of this wine with you. That is phenomenal. Got a little bit of fruit on the back side of it. A nice dry Riesling. New York has come a long way from your granddad's sweet Rieslings, that is for sure, and this is a wonderful example of it.
Yeah, it's truly a dry Riesling, perfect food wine.
Well, I sure appreciate your time, John. Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting us onto your land and having us privy to this beautiful view.
Glad you could be here.
Next on Wine About the Weather, Katie and I pair up some more wines, and we learn how to make some of our own. Welcome back. Now we're out of the vineyard and into Wagner to try some more fantastic wine. Well, if you remember from just a little bit earlier, we were up in the vineyard and Katie appeared as if from nowhere with that fantastic Riesling. So we figured she had a few more tricks up her sleeve, and we were right, because Katie came with a bunch of local meats and cheeses and, of course, Wagner wine. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
This is cool. What's going on? What do we got?
So first we're gonna try our 2014 dry Riesling. So unlike the one we tried earlier, this isn't technically a single vineyard, although all the fruit did come from our farm because we grow it all.
All right, let's try it out. It smells great. That's really good. And you know, to me, what the difference is that the one that we tried earlier from the single vineyard, it took a little while to kind of say, here I am, whereas this is a little bit more, you know.
Yeah, definitely much more fruit forward. And this will pair beautifully with a local New York Chev.
Okay.
And so Riesling is such a fruity grape that we don't need a strong or a pungent pairing with it.
The wine does act as a sort of an extractor, if you will, of the flavors of this, which is really cool. So because this is so mild, the Riesling does a good job with that. So what else do we have now to try out?
So this is our dry rosé of Cabernet Franc. And you know, you're looking at it, it's this beautiful pink color, you think that's gonna be a sweet wine. Mm-hmm. It absolutely is not. This is made in a dry style, and it's actually made using a red grape. So it's made from the Cabernet Franc grape, which does really well in the Finger Lakes region. We're gonna pair this dry rosé with the Camembert. And this one has a little bit more flavor to it, which can stand up to the bolder flavors in the dry rosé.
The wine just pulls out the flavors that you have here.
Yeah.
So you are 2 for 2, sister.
Thank
I'm
you.
very
I'm
happy
glad
about
you
this. Then let's move on to the next.
All right, last but not least, we're gonna try some ice wine, some Riesling ice. So this is a dessert style wine, that's why we save it for last. It's very decadent. Ours is actually a non-traditional style, so that means that we freeze the grapes after we pick them late harvest.
Okay.
And then we press them in their frozen state. And for this wine, the perfect pairing is blue cheese. The pungentness of this cheese really stands up to the sweetness of the ice wine.
This is a tough job, folks. I'm here to tell you. That is so nice.
This is what we do all day, every day, right?
Yeah, it is. What a shame. Now, I have another question for you. Not that I'm trying to rush out of here, but we're looking to head back on the other side of the lake, and I've been hearing some nice things about the folks at Fulkerson, especially as it relates to making your own wine. What do you think?
Absolutely. I know Sarah Fulkerson personally, great guy, and you guys are gonna have a great time over there.
All right, well, we'll head that way.
Cheers.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, Sarah. Jason Goff.
Jason, good to meet you.
Very nice to meet you, sir. Thanks so much for inviting. This is beautiful.
Yeah, thanks.
Wonderful spot, and we've been traveling around the Finger Lakes over the last few days, and one thing I've always wanted to do, I have the bug for it now, is to make my own wine, and I understand this is the place to go.
Good, this is the place.
Let's go take a look at what you've got.
Okay.
So, Sarah, to start off, obviously, before you can make any wine, you need the juice.
Yes, people bring their 5-gallon jugs in and they fill it up with up to 35 different varieties we have a choice from.
Just depending on what they want, and the glass is the way to go. You like the glass?
It's very sanitary, set up for modern winemaking, and it's a nice size. It makes 2 cases of wine.
Oh, very nice. This thing is really cool. It looks almost like a little Middle Ages torture device here.
Well, it's a handy little crusher destemmer.
Uh-huh.
If you have your own grapes in the backyard, you can pour the grapes in there and turn the handle, and not only does it crush them, but it takes the stems out, and the crushed fruit will go into a bucket where, if they're reds, you would ferment it right there on the skins, or if it's white, you would put it into a press to make juice.
That is really cool. And then from there, we make our way over to eventually having to do some more processes, including bottling.
Yeah, this is all about packaging. As you know, packaging's everything.
Now, do the colors, is that just for decoration, or does it have anything to do with light penetration, or how does that work?
These represent traditional areas in Europe where certain wines are grown. That's your typical Bordeaux bottle.
Okay.
Okay. This would be a German Mosel bottle. That would be a German Rhine bottle.
Oh, I see. So it's just purely then for decoration.
It could be just for decoration, or it could be if your wine style represents a variety that's grown in a certain area, you may want to use the traditional bottle.
That's really cool. Now, and then you have a bunch of other things here as well that are not as accessible perhaps in other wine shops. We've got a corker. What if somebody were to come in and say, Sarah, I need 5 things to really get started besides, you know, the juice, what would you suggest to them?
Well, first of all, you'll need a place to put your wine in and your grape juice to ferment it into wine, which is a 5-gallon glass carboy.
Okay.
Very important. You'll need a rubber stopper and an airlock, which keeps the air from getting back into the wine and spoiling it. Mm-hmm. And you'll need a siphon hose to transfer that wine from one container to another.
Okay.
And
so this can go from through your process right into your bottle.
It can. You'll use this for bottling your wine.
Okay, and this is something that's a little different too. You guys have a lot of different things here. This is a corker?
That's a corker. It takes a little bit of force to put a cork in. You need a special piece of equipment for it.
And you guys have a lot of stuff here, and even some beer supplies too. So I know there's a lot of crossover these days between wine drinkers and beer drinkers, so you have everybody covered.
And you can use the same equipment for both.
That's a nice thing to know too, because again, of that crossover. Sarah, thank you so much for your time, sir. We've enjoyed it, learned a lot, and we're looking forward to seeing you again soon.
Wonderful, thank you.
It'll be fantastic. Coming up after the break, we're gonna head over to a winery that has some really cool sustainable farming practices. Stay with us. Welcome back. We're headed over to Hazlitt 1852 on beautiful Seneca Lake. It's our last stop of the day. So we're here at Hazlitt 1852. Michael Reedy is the winemaker here, and we're hanging out in your tank room with these beautiful stainless steel tanks. Michael, how many varietals do you guys have? It's like a boutique-y kind of winery here.
Yeah, it's a smaller winery, boutique. Everything's estate grown that we handle at this facility. We deal with about 9 to 10 varietals on a yearly basis, and depending on the year and the vintage and the season, we might produce anywhere from 13 to 14 different wines.
Wow, so that's a pretty big spread. I mean, you're talking about 40%, 50% more some years than others. What's the reason for that?
Seasons lend themselves to different qualities of grapes, and you know, we do things like reserve wines, where certain years we just don't deem it to be a year that we want to produce a reserved wine, so we don't put it out there.
Okay.
And that's a big reason.
Now this year is, obviously, as you know, it's been a goofy winter, basically a non-winter, so your bud break is coming a little earlier.
Yep.
How nervous are you as far as like a late frost goes?
We're always nervous about that until we've got everything tied. One of the things you'll do with these vines is certain varietals are resistant more to cold than other varietals. One of the reasons Riesling is so popular in this area is it's actually a very cold hardy grape. And actually grapevines, if you continually drop the temperature on them, it progressively gets cooler and colder, they actually can increase their cold tolerance levels.
Gotcha. So you're just going to be keeping an eye on the forecast as we head deeper and deeper into the season. You don't want any late frost, obviously, with the earlier bud break.
That's exactly it.
Cool. And we're here in your tank room, as I said, too. We've got different size tanks. Some of them have the frost on them and some of them don't. So what is in these tanks right now that is going to be coming out to drink, as far as how are we going on from here in process?
Sure. So all the tanks in the room that have frost on them are all white tanks. What we're doing is a process right now called cold stabilization. So if you've ever had a wine bottle and seen those little crystals at the bottom that some people think are glass, well, it's not actually glass, it's a tartaric acid crystal that's formed. Americans are very flaw-based consumers, so what we're doing is removing those crystals in the tank so that doesn't happen in your wine bottle.
Gotcha. Michael, thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome.
I want to know a little bit more about the sustainability that you guys have going on here.
Well, if you want to know more about sustainability, then John, our vineyard manager, is the perfect person to talk to.
All right, can I go talk to him?
Let's go.
All right, thank you. We've made our way up to a three-sided barn here with John Santos. He is the vineyard manager here at Hazlitt 1852. And John, this is a big pile of compost.
Yes, this is all the grape waste from our winery and a neighboring winery, blended with some horse manure and wood chips as a bulking agent.
Okay, and then you have this big meat thermometer looking thing in your hand, and this is, what do you do with this with the compost?
Well, we monitor the temperature of the compost, and we like to see the temperature of the compost between 130 and 150 degrees.
Okay.
At those temperatures, we're killing all the pathogens in the materials in the compost, and the fungal pathogens for the grapevines, and we're breaking down the material to make it more plant available.
So this is just one of the many sustainability practices that you guys have here at Hazlitt 1852. Let's go hit a couple more.
All right, let's go see the water tower.
All right.
So this is our rainwater collection system.
Okay.
We use this tank of water to fill our sprayers. So when we're going out to spray the vineyards, this is where we get all our water from.
Wow, and how big is this sucker? It's big.
It's 1,500 gallons.
And how much of that will you use? Like, and you do a couple of different spray cycles, or how does that work?
Yeah, there's several sprays during a season. An individual spray day, we may use 800 gallons out of this tank, and 1/4 of an inch of rain can give us most of that water.
Wow, and you just collect it all right off the roof, right into the tank?
Right into the tank, and gravity feed into the sprayer, and off we go.
That's really cool, man. What else you guys have going on here?
Well, we can go down to the home farm and see a Sudan grass cover crop.
Let's go.
So all this brown material you see on this field, that's Sudan grass.
Okay. Wow.
Sudan grass is something that we grow as a cover crop. We use it in prepping our fields for planting, and all that organic matter fertilizes the soil, as well as suppressing nematodes in the soil.
And what are nematodes?
Nematodes are a little worm-like creature that feed on the roots of the grapevines, and they can spread a virus to the grapevines.
And this is cool because you guys are going to actually plant new vines on this, so you're getting this prepped up as we speak.
Yeah, this is going to be 4 acres of Riesling this spring.
And then how long from the time you put it in, how long before you'll be able to harvest grapes?
3 years from the time of planting, we'll be picking our first grapes off of this field.
Awesome. Well, I'll tell you what, John, we've been talking about a lot of serious stuff. We've been in the tank rooms and talking about varietals and talking about sustainability. I heard there's a party going on later tonight.
We have a band playing at the winery tonight.
Well, we got to check that out, and we haven't had any wine yet. We need to fix that too. Let's hit it.
Let's do it.
Okay, man. Every Friday night here at Hazlitt, there's some great local music. Folks come out for some wine slushies and a great time. Lots of people coming in, young to not so young. I was afraid the wine slushie would be a little too sweet, but it really wasn't. It was good. Looking forward to trying it out when it's about 90 outside. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Wine About the Weather. We had such a great time with our friends at Wagner. On the other side of Seneca Lake at Fulkerson, and right back here at Hazlitt, 1852. Complete, of course, with wine slushies. And I hope you'll join us again next week as we tour beautiful New York and all it has to offer. Wine About the Weather, then drink it.